everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining me. I am doing part 1 of the 10 cards 1 kit for the My Monthly Hero kit for this month. And here's a quick overview of what came in the kit. A lot of really fun, kind of organic looking materials. You get some handmade paper sheets here. And then you get these gorgeous stamp set. The stamp set is Summer Flowers, and then you also get this Creative Vases stamp set. Both of them are 4x6s. And then you also get this 6-inch handmade paper that has a beautiful edge on it. And of course I put the ribbon it came wrapped up with along with that. Okay, let's jump in with card number 1. Now these cards were very fun. I've been wanting to do some like watercoloring images, floral images for a long time. And so here I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I listed the colors up there in the left corner. I took a floral image from the stamp set and I'm outlining it with a darker pink, and then I'm going in the centers of the flowers with yellow and then adding pink ink all along the flower. And then I'm doing the stems in the green. I'm wanting to do almost like a no-line watercoloring kind of an effect, but I want it to be kind of messy. So my inspiration for this card was actually the cardstock that the stamps came on. It had this beautiful floral image, and I think they're sweet peas, but it was just gorgeous, and I was just trying to emulate that. So now that I have my images all stamped along that bottom and then up on the left, I'm just taking a paintbrush and then I'm dipping it in water, and I'm going to spread out the color on all of those flowers. And I think this just turned out really pretty. Very soft. Now I wanted a little bit of a shadow, so I'm taking the Distress ink that came in the kit. It came with some Ice Spruce Distress Oxide ink, and I'm adding some water to it. And then I'm just going around the flowers, giving it a little bit of color in the background. The less water you use, the more strong the background will be. The more color, did I say that right? The more color, the more water. Anyway, I messed that one up. Okay, I think you know what I mean though. So I added water to what was left on my block, and then I'm just doing a little bit of splattering just to bring the whole card together. Okay, now that that's done, and I confused the heck out of you, I'm sorry. I'm taking a stitch rectangle die and I'm just going to cut out a panel. And now I need to stamp our sentiment. For my sentiment, I chose the sentiment that says, "You are my sunshine." I think it's a cute little sentiment that goes perfect with all these floral images. I stamped it twice to get a nice, good impression. And I didn't tell you, but I'm not using the watercolor paper that came in the kit. I wanted to kind of save it, so I just grabbed some watercolor paper from my stash. But that's the paper that I use for this panel. I added some gray twine and I popped it up with some fun foam onto a gray card base. It's the standard A2 size card. I'm adding some Wink of Stella to my little flowers, and that's it for that card. Very simple, but I think it turned out really pretty, really elegant. Oh no, actually I did add a little bit of bling. In my stash I grabbed some of these little itty bitty tiny clear sequins, and I added those as well. But that was it. Very simple card, and but it turned out very pretty. So that's card number 1. Okay, hopefully I won't confuse you on card number 2. So now here I decided the handmade paper came in the kit, so I'm going to use it for this card. I was nervous about using it only because if I messed up, you know, I couldn't edit it because there was only so much. So, but I think I did good with this one. I'm just trimming it down so it's a little bit smaller than my card base here. And then I'm putting in my Mini Misty, and I'm going to do some stamping. Now, I love this little water pail that came in the stamp set, so I'm going to stamp that right in the center. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my sentiment. That way I know where to put the bucket. I'm gonna probably lower my sentiment just a little bit. Now I'm going to stamp that bucket with the ice spruce oxide ink. And then I really like that floral image too. But here I'm lifting it up, removing my sentiment, and then here's where I go in with my oxide ink. Now, once I have that done, I am going to create a mask, and I am going to cover it up. Now, I'm just using some masking paper from Inkadikadoo, and I'm just going to basically, I'm going to stamp it with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and then I'm going to cut it out, but I'm going to not worry about the bottom. I'm more worried about the top of this bucket. So just take my scissors and trim that out. And I wasn't really sure if the oxide ink would blend, you know, as far as coloring goes, but it turned out beautiful. I love the effect that this gave. Now I'm taking the floral image. This floral image is just gorgeous. It's those little itty bitty, it's the smaller flourish in the stamp set. And I placed it in the center, and then here you can see my masking paper actually lifted it up, and I just thought I'm going to leave that. It was no big deal. But I'm going in with some olive ink, and these are again my Zig Clean Color Airbrush markers. And I did list the colors up there in the corners for you guys. And I'm going to stamp that in the center. Now I'm going to place my mask back on my bucket, and then I'm going to clean off my stamp, and then I'm going to take another color. Well, actually I'm going to position it. I'm going to offset it to the right just a little bit, and then I'm going in with a color. Now for this color, it was cobalt blue, beautiful blue, and I'm just going over the top of that floral image, and I'm going to stamp right over the green. And then I'm going to basically do the exact same thing, but here actually I messed up. I actually colored it in first, but I didn't shift it, and so I'm going to end up taking a baby wipe and wiping that off. And then I'll lift it up and then place it on my image here, off to the left this time. Then we have a full florally bucket. And now I'm going to go in, and this is, I believe, violet. These three colors together just look so pretty. Now, if you, for all you beginning watercolorers out there, this technique is lovely. Even just like this, I think it looks like you hand painted it, and I love that. Okay, now we need to color a bucket. So I'm just adding a little bit of the oxide ink, the ice spruce again, to my acrylic block here, and then I'm going in with my paintbrush. I'm going to zoom in for you. When I zoom in, you could really see the detail of the flowers. It's so pretty. Now I'm going to paint my bucket by adding water to the oxide ink. And let's see if I can explain this one again. Now the more water you add, the less color. The less water, the more color. I think I got it. Okay, but if you want to color a pale, this is the perfect ink, or the perfect color for your bucket. And I'm out of the viewing area. Sorry about that. But I just think it was so easy to do, and I just love the way it turned out. Now I cleaned off my brush really good, and I'm just going in with some water. I'm dipping my brush in water and then wiping it off, and I'm just kind of spreading out the color, all three of those colors that we stamped. And I love the way this looks. This would be a really pretty note card set. If you guys want a nice gift to give, this would be perfect. Okay, I spread out the color. Now you can see that area there is a little bit of too much of an open space, so I'm going in with my markers, my Zig markers, and I'm adding some water to it and just filling in that space there with all three colors. So I used the violet, and then the olive green, and then also the cobalt blue. And then just to add a little extra dimension, I didn't water down the green that I'm adding here. And it was so easy, guys, but it just turned out so pretty. Love this effect. Now, I did dry it with my heat gun, and now I'm going to stamp the sentiment. And I wanted to keep this clean and simple, so I'm just using the sentiment that says thank you. And I'm just using my VersaFine ink. I'm going to stamp it twice, just so I get a nice deep color. I had no problem stamping on this handmade watercolor paper. It's just gorgeous. Beautiful paper. Now, I am taking a piece of vellum. I wanted to add something else to the card, but I still wanted to keep it very clean. So I took a piece of vellum, and I'm just cutting it slightly larger than my little watercolor paper here. And then I adhered it to the back, and then I added some foam tape. I'm just going to pop that right up, and then I'm going to place it on a standard size A2 size card base right in the center. And then just to add, a little bit of shimmer, of course, I added some Nuvo crystal drops. And I believe, let's see, this is White Blizzard. Just subtle but beautiful. Love the way this card turned out. Okay, now for card number 3. Okay, card number 3 was fun. I'm taking my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to stamp these cute, adorable little sweet peas 5 times. And then I did color them in, and I skipped part of the coloring just to make this video a little bit shorter. But very easy to color in, guys. I just used greens, and then just to add a little bit of depth, I added some brown. And then there are little flowers on the top there, or at least I think they're flowers. So I'm coloring them in with some blue and purples. I'm going to go ahead and die cut all 5 of those out. Lovely. Okay, now we need to work on our panel. For our panel, I'm going to be using that rectangle die right there. I'm taking a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm placing it in my Mini Misty. And then, to save time, I'm going to stamp the sentiment first. I chose the sentiment that says, "Hello, Sweet Pea." I love that. When my little girls were little, I used to call them Sweet Pea all the time. So I'm partial to this one. I used my anti-static powder tool, added it, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment with some Versamark ink. I added some Glacier White embossing powder by Nuvo, and I'm just heat setting that. Lovely. You can barely see it, but you'll be able to see it once I put some Distress inks on it. Now I'm going in with some Distress Oxide ink. This one is Vintage Photo. And then I'm going to go in with some Fossilized Amber, making sure I blend both of those together. And now I'm going in with the Ice Spruce. I'm so glad this kit came with Ice Spruce. I didn't have that color. I'm going to use my mister here, and I'm going to activate that. And I did add some Broken China to the top. I thought it needed a little bit more color, so I added that. Now here on the bottom, you can see I took a piece of craft paper, and I cut that out with my rectangle die along with my panel. And I didn't show it in camera, but I did use my my Vintage Photo, and I distressed the edges of that craft cardstock. I'm adding some double-sided tape here, and then from my stash I have this ribbon. Actually, it's lace trim. It's gorgeous. I added that to my craft cardstock, and then I tied a bow using some twine. I'm just going to pop this up with some foam tape. The foam tape that I'm using is pretty thin, so I wasn't worried about it, being too high off my panel. I'm going to place that right on the bottom. Lovely. Now I'm going to go in. I took the stamp that had the vine in the leaf in the stamp set, and then I'm taking some rich cocoa ink from Memento, and I'm just stamping right above that craft cardstock there. I stamped it 3 times. just to have a little bit of a background. And then I did want to add some color, so I'm just using my alcohol marker. This is a green, and I'm going over the leaves and then a little bit of the stems. Just make sure that it all kind of flows nice together. Lovely. Okay, now I'm ready to add my sweet peas. Now I alternate them, and I ended up only using 4. I put 1 on the panel, and then I lifted up 1 up with foam tape. That's how I alternated it. And that extra one I ended up putting on the inside of my card. Now I'm using a craft card base. Now I didn't show it here. I'm going to pop that up with some foam, fun foam. And then just for a little added interest, I'm adding some Simply White Nouveau Crystal Drops. And the best thing about these crystal drops on Distress Oxide inks is it'll take on the color, so it won't be so bright. When it dries, it'll actually take on the color behind it in a subtle way. But that's it. Okay, now we're going to move on. This is card number 4. Now I'm going to be using this stitch rectangle die. Not right now though. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to outline it. I need to do this so I know where to stamp. So this is just kind of like my guide. And it was on the outside of that die, so when I end up cutting it out, you won't be able to see it. Now for this card, honestly, I wasn't really sure how this was going to do. I'm using my Memento ink, and I'm going to stamp this adorable water pail on my vellum. Now this ink will smear so easy, guys. I would suggest you heat setting it using VersaFine and then heat setting it with some clear embossing powder, only because it was so easily smeared. But I didn't do that here. I actually wanted the softness against the vellum. So now I'm cutting out a mask for my water pail, making sure I cut the inside of the handle. And I used my heat tool and it still wasn't dry, but I wanted to move along with this card. So just be careful if you guys want to case this. It's just not very good with the Memento ink. But now I'm taking this beautiful floral image. I think these are sweet pea flowers. I guess they're gorgeous flowers. My goodness. And I'm stamping it. You can see it's not in the center of the flower pot because the flower pot or the water pail was very big, and so I wanted a bigger flourish in there. So I'm going to mask off that, and then I'm going to stamp over it, just so I have a nice full flourish in my water pail here. And you're going to see when I lift all of these masking papers up, all the ink actually came up with it. My bad. You could see there, but I still really like the way it looked, so I just went with it. Now here, I've never used my alcohol markers, at least I don't think I have used my alcohol markers on vellum, but I love the way this looks. This looked so neat because it actually created like watery marks. I don't know how to explain it. I put it under some white paper so you could see better. But I'm just using, I used 4 different grays to color in my water bucket. But when you see the close-ups, you'll see the effect that it gave. It's like the alcohol marker kind of stayed put a little bit. It didn't spread. And the effect that it gave was wonderful. I loved it. Now I'm going to paint my little flowers. For these flowers, I chose a blues with a little bit of purple. I sped the coloring up really fast, but it was a little bit tricky trying to figure out what was the leaves and then what was the flowers. But I think I did pretty good. I did go in with some darker blues and then some lavender in the center. Now I'm just creating a ground with my gray marker. And then as I did that, I was going to leave it, but then I thought there's this single sweet pea flower. I don't even know if that's if that's the right flower, but I'm gonna call it a sweet pea flower, and I'm gonna place that right underneath my flower pot. I think that just adds just a nice little touch there. And then after I do that, I'm going to stamp my bumblebee. I wanted to use this cute little bumblebee. Now I'm going to stamp it above that little flower on the bottom, and then up on top, and then at the end of its trail I put Be Sweet. And I think this turned out just so cute. I went ahead and heat set that as best as I could, and then now I'm coloring in that bottom flower using the same exact colors that I used, the blues and the purple. And then I did notice that I needed a little bit more green at the base of my flowers there. I'm going to go in with some yellow and color those itty bitty bumblebees. And I just think this is so fun and so neat. Love that. Okay, now I used my stitch rectangle die and cut out my vellum, and then using a slightly larger one, I took one of my embossing folders and ran that through my Big Shot. Now after I did that, I punched 2 holes in the top and then added some sheer white ribbon, threaded it, and then tied a bow, just to make it just a simple but really pretty card. I'm just going to pop that up with some fun foam and place that directly on my card base. I'm just using a white card base for this card. And then I went really crazy with these. These are Nouveau Duck Egg Blue Nouveau Crystal Drops, and I wanted to add a little bit more color. So I added polka dots everywhere, guys. But I think it turned out nice. I mean, it was soft, and I think it just turned out beautiful. So, okay, now for our final card for part 2. This is what I call my cowboy card. Now, I am going to stamp some images here. Now, I went crazy stamping some images. I'm using again my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I stamped the boot, and then there's a little water pitcher. I'm going to stamp that. And then there's also a glass vase, a glass jar vase, not the mason jar, but the longer vase. And then I went ahead and stamped that large, smaller flower bouquet. And then there's a smaller bouquet in the stamp set, and I stamped those along with the bow here. Now I didn't end up using that small vase or the bow, but I did color them in. Now I'm using my alcohol markers to color these images in, and I didn't I didn't show the coloring. I just showed me the finished product. But I colored the flowers pink, purple, and blue, and of course I colored my cowboy boot brown, and then the vases and the water pitcher grays. But this was a very easy image to color in, and using your alcohol markers on these images was just gorgeous. I loved it. Now I'm taking this is a vintage photo distress ink. I edged my card base, which is going to be a craft card base. And then I cut out this panel here, and I stamped my sentiment. Now the sentiment I stamped was "You Are So Sweet," and it was I just used my Versamark with white embossing powder, and I just went ahead and heat set that. I popped up my boot and my water pitcher, and I added the flowers inside. Placed them on my panel, and then I have some twine for my stash. This is just regular twine. I think I got it at Walmart. But I think it really adds to my cowboy card. I'm going to trim. I tied a bow on the bottom. Lovely. And I'm going to pop that whole thing up with some fun foam. I'm going to place that on my card base right in the center. And then just to bring it all together, I added some faux stitching using my white gel pen. And That's it. That's my cowboy card. I like saying that. I know. I did add some Wink and Stella to my little flowers just to add a little bit of shimmer. But that's the first 5 of the 10 cards 1 kit for the My Monthly Hero July 2017 card kit. I hope this inspires you. It looks like you spend a lot of time, but you really don't. I enjoyed this kit, and I'm looking forward to making part 2. So I'm wishing you a lovely weekend, and we will see you soon. If you like this tutorial, give me a thumbs up, and if you're new and want to see more, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.